Hello and welcome to the Talk Football podcast. My name's Tommy Hay and I'm joined here by the editor of Get Spanish Football News Online, Kieran Quayle. How are you today, Kieran?
Very good, Tommy. I've got a hair appointment for tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. It's been 5 months since I got a haircut.
Seriously?
Yeah.
5 months?
The barber shop's only opened up this week, along with the pubs. I haven't had a pint yet or a haircut, so I'm looking forward to sneaking these in the midst of all this La Liga. How are you?
Brilliant. Not bad, yeah. My hair's quite short. I got it cut the other day for €5. €5.
Absolute steal.
Yeah, not bad.
Around the barrio, is it?
Yeah, just in the street. It was all right. No, doesn't take a card payment, which kind of tells you a lot about the establishment if they're still not taking card payments at this stage of the game.
Right.
You know, with the hygiene issue and stuff, you think they would be worried about that, but yeah, this guy's...
You're an easy short back and sides though, aren't you?
Yeah, I just get I don't like to bother about my hair, and it's getting pretty hot here as well, so, you know, like high 30s, so I'm not going to be... I think if I put gel in my hair, it would just melt. So it's probably not worth it. But
you just say, Juan, take it all off.
Take it all off. Yeah, no. Went for a 3. Went for a 3 the full way round. So yeah,
you'd need that, and the temperature over there in Madrid, you'd need that.
I'm from Glasgow as well, so it's not. It's difficult, really difficult. Well, we had some game yesterday. I don't really know where to begin because there are so many talking points. So I'll just pass it over to you. What did you make of it? 2-2, Barca v Atlético. I think Barca have possibly blown it now, if they hadn't already. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, this fixture, Barcelona Atlético, it always reminds me of the year 2014 when Atlético won the league for the first time in 18 years, and they had to go to the Camp Nou and get a point to win the league, and they did that through Diego Godin at the Camp Nou. And I remember the stadium was packed out last game of the season, and Diego Godin scored the goal, and there was maybe 100 or 200 Atlético fans way up in the gods in the Camp Nou celebrating, and it was just an historic day. And ever since then, there's been a really good battle between the two teams in Europe and on the domestic front. And last night was no different. It was very, very enjoyable. A much better game than I expected now. In saying that, I was excited going into it because Barcelona needed to win, and Atlético have been the informed team in La Liga alongside Villarreal. So they've been going really, really strong. But they're a different team now since the return to action. So very, very exciting to watch. And it was a nightmare start really for Diego Costa. He scored an own goal, didn't really know much about it. Messi whipped it in, and it was a very, very big corner, and it kind of came off his calf and went beyond Jan Oblak, and he looked a bit bizarre, Costa. And then a few minutes later, he went up and they had a penalty, and he missed the penalty. So it was just a nightmare a few minutes for Diego Costa.
Yeah.
2-2, 3 penalties in the game as well, end to end. The first half was very, very exciting. It was up and down, and Atlético were really organised. Like, they were playing on the counter, but anytime Barcelona got back into the game, Atlético were so quick to get back, and they had 2 blocks of 4, and Marcos Llorente, who's been a revelation, he was kind of playing in the hole and behind Costa, and he was able to drop back into the middle as well, so they could make it a 5 in the middle with Partey and Saul. So, Barcelona struggled to break them down because they had no real width. Barca started with 4 midfielders, and Suarez and Messi, so there was no real width coming through, and everything they were doing was going through the middle, and Atletico were able to kind of soak up that pressure. Messi got his 700 career goal, which was a very, very nice Panenka straight down the middle. I think he was thinking, okay, this is my 700 goal. I'm going to do it in style. The whole world's watching, and against the best keeper in the world. Probably the best keeper in the world facing the best player in the world. And Oblak wasn't getting near it. Messi kind of waited for him and then just tucked it away. And yeah, it was a great game. What did you make of it?
I thought it was great. It was interesting what you're saying, the way that Atletico constantly bounced back into the game. And I thought from the outset, it looked like Atletico were the more adventurous of the two teams, as if Atletico were chasing the big prize sort of thing. Barcelona, obviously, because they are lagging behind Madrid after the draw at Celta, and the draw against Sevilla as well. they really have had to win every single game, and they've constantly been dropping points. And from the outset here, I didn't think they looked adventurous enough. The thing about the midfielders, they played four essentially central midfielders: Busquets, Puig, Rakitic, and Vidal, and not much width there. Not, you wouldn't say, possibly with the exception of Puig, not really a very attacking midfield four either. Although Vidal was bombing forward and stuff like that, he was getting in amongst it and trying to create something. But it wasn't the most adventurous lineup from them. I thought it was a great game to watch, really great game to watch. But I think Atletico more than held their own, and it could have gone either way. It really could have gone either way. But Barca are in trouble now, and I think it's now there are going to be a lot of question marks. Sadly, around Setien. I think me and you are both big fans of his. But he came out after the game and questioned one of his own decisions, which the press obviously have just jumped on. And a lot of fans that were never really convinced by him are also jumping that as well. He said that he questioned his own decision to bring on Griezmann. I don't know, what did you think of that? The fact that 10 minutes after the match, he's like saying maybe it was a mistake to bring on Griezmann. Have you ever seen a manager do that before?
Yeah, it was bizarre. And I really liked Setien, but from a 60-year-old manager with plenty of experience, I thought it was a very, very strange thing to say. And he was talking about Messi having a good game, Suarez having a good game, Puig having a good game, and he was basically saying that I couldn't get Griezmann on. Well, I think the fact that he went ahead and put Fati on before Griezmann was a huge statement, and then an even bigger statement was throwing him on in the 90th minute. Throwing somebody on in the 90th minute is basically saying I've got no room for you here. And when the game was tied, Barcelona needed somebody that was going to be able to change it. So obviously he thinks Griezmann can't change this game because he plays in that position where Messi plays. Griezmann was a winger with Real Sociedad back in the day, but he's no longer a winger. He plays in the hole, or he plays as a number 9. He plays as a striker like he did at Atlético Madrid. Like he was the focal point there and scored all the goals. So clearly there's no room there for him, and I think it was an insult to bring him on in the 90th minute with 3 minutes to go and against his former club. I thought that was pretty harsh. I think it was probably better if he didn't even bring him on than bring him on in the 90th minute. I think bringing him on then was basically a statement just to say there's no room for you here. And his confidence must be shot because he come on and he lost the ball straight away. Yeah. But then he made this chase, and I think Simeone was probably thinking, good man, Antoine, like you haven't lost your Atletico streak. But he just hasn't fit in at Barcelona, and it's, I don't know, you see Messi and you see his actions and he's the leader there. Obviously, like he runs the club on the pitch and sometimes off it as well, and they don't seem to have a relationship at all. I mean, a football relationship, I don't know how to get on off the pitch, but I mean, in football terms, Messi really struggles to pick him out during games, and he's got his best pal Suarez there, and they tend to work together and they combine really well, but it just doesn't look good for Griezmann at all. In a huge match like against Atletico Madrid where you have to win, to bring him on in the 90th minute says a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. Can we talk about that actually though, Messi and Suarez? Because there's been a common accusation against Messi that he's got too much power at the club, that he basically runs a club not just on the park but also off it. Could you throw Suarez into that as well? Is Suarez almost too big to not play now? Because it's difficult to say because he scored 2 goals against Celta,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean he didn't have an amazing match. This sounds absurd to say that, but if anybody that watched the match would realise he didn't really play a massive role in the match apart from the 2 moments where he scored the goals. He takes those goals very well, but he's not what he was, and I think his body is not up to the same way it was. Now that could come down to injury, coming back from injury, or it could come down to age. It's difficult to tell, but he's not at the level that he was before. But I think Setien comes out and praises him regardless after the game, and you think, well, is he worth the praise? And it's and then on top of that, you have him when after that Celta game, he was asked in the press conference, well, what went wrong today? And he said regarding your form away from home, and he says, well, I don't know. Our form away from home, that's the coach's job to sort that out. We've done our job on the pitch. and the coaches have to figure out why we're not, why we're not making it work at home. Away from home. So it's like, it's on one hand you've got Setien praising Suarez, and then Suarez is not giving it back at all. In fact, he's completely passing the buck from the guys on the pitch to the management staff. So I think that's maybe the mark of a player that has a little bit too much power.
Yeah, with Suarez, like, he's definitely in the Messi club, and regarding his performance against Celta, he didn't perform, but I think goal scorers can get away with that. When they score 2 goals, or when they score a vital goal and they haven't touched the ball for 90 minutes, they can get away with that because their job is to put the ball in the net, which is the hardest thing to do in football. And I think Suarez's understanding is so strong with Messi that Messi definitely wants him on the team sheet, because he doesn't link up with Griezmann, and Fadi's too young. He's a brilliant player, and he's a spark every time he comes on, but Messi understands Suarez like no other, and I think that's the reason he's in. And although he's coming to the end of his career, I think he probably has another year at the top anyway. He's 33 now, but that's the same age as Messi, but Messi's been more fortunate with injuries. Suarez got a really, really bad injury in January, and that's probably still got him at not 100%. Like, he's still not fully fit, but he's producing the goods. And like this season, he's got 13 goals in La Liga in 23 games and 8 assists. So his numbers are unbelievable. And even if he does go missing, he'll still pop up. And I think he's just that goal poacher that will do that. But yeah, regarding the kind of off the field stuff and in the dressing room, he's definitely part of the Messi crew, who would be against the board and looks like they're against the current manager and his assistant manager, because Eder Sarabia is 39. Setien's 60. So Eder Sarabia is Setien's assistant. He was with him at Real Betis as well, and he's a very, very vocal guy, and he's up and down the touchline. Not like Simeone. He wouldn't be as productive as Simeone, I don't think, or influential as Simeone. Definitely not the same motivator, because every time you look at him, it's kind of like a negative body language thing he's got going on. And Setien's beside him, and Setien's this respectful coach. He's 60, he's quite reserved, and you see Sarabia, and it's so noticeable. And every time the cameras are picking up on him, and last night they were picking up on him because over the weekend with Celta, there was a clear issue with Messi and Sarabia on the touchline, where Sarabia was trying to get his attention, and this is the guys standing kind of in a huddle during one of the cooling breaks where they're supposed to discuss tactics and what's going on, and Messi just wasn't interested, and he got some water and kept his head down. Sarabia's literally calling him, and they're 2 yards away, and Messi turns around and he's gone.
He just turns his back on him.
He's thinking, like, who are you to tell me what to do? And I think you have to listen to coaches. Okay, you might be leaning on Messi and you might have your own views, but you have to listen to them. And especially when the camera is there, like, there's already so much turmoil at that club. Just keep it, I think, in front of the cameras, just keep it civil and just go and listen, and then listen to what he says, and then maybe turn around and talk to Suarez and say, okay, we're going to do this, and make your own plan. Like, you don't have to, like, Messi's 33, he knows the game inside out. You don't have to listen to Sarabia. You don't have to take in what he says, but I think you should make the conscious decision to actually look at him in the eye for 10 seconds. And there was an unbelievable picture taken last night at the Bernabeu, and to say a picture speaks 1,000 words, and it was literally somebody up in the stands, probably a journalist, and on the left hand side you had like the Barcelona group, and they were all broken up. I mean, there was no communication between them. And on the right hand side you had Atlético just on their dugout, and they were in a circle all listening to Simeone, and Simeone was giving them instructions, and it was just it really, really said a lot. If you get, it's going around on Twitter, you'll find it. But yeah, there's huge issues there, and Sarabia is very vocal, and there's just a clear lack of understanding there. And I don't know if it's a thing where Messi's just fed up with coaches at this stage, because they sacked Valverde, and a lot of players like Valverde, and Setien come in, and there's reports that it just hasn't worked with Setien, and they didn't like it from day one, and there's been a lot of frustration around that. So I don't know if Setien's going to last in this job, because there's 5 games left for Barca and there's 6 games left for Madrid, and Madrid are a point ahead.
Yeah, but this is the thing. The accusations were laid squarely at the feet of Valverde that Messi's final years at the club were being wasted. And there was all these rumours that Messi was unhappy with Valverde. I didn't really see any kind of noticeable evidence of that. It was all rumours in the press and things like that he wasn't happy. It was all kind of hearsay, things that Messi had apparently said or little things. But I didn't really see any, as far as I can remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see any serious things on the park of Messi not, looking at Valverde or Messi disrespecting Valverde, or I didn't see any of that. But I've seen a lot of this now. As you say, picture speaks 1,000 words, and that the thing at Celta there when he walks away from Sarabia, it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And Setien looks like a kind of dejected parent. He looks like a parent that's lost control of his kids, and it's terrible to watch because as we've said, we're big fans of him, but there seems to be a real disconnect between the coaching staff and a lot of the senior players. In fact, and a lot of the other players as well. Like there were other images of when Artur was getting told to warm up against Celta, he walks down the stairs and he's shaking his head. And that's, again, why is he shaking his head? Well, you have to say it's both because behind the scenes, the board are trying to offload him in this Pjanic deal. And it's like he's been brought on and it's like, are you serious kind of thing? It's throughout the squad, there are issues. Rakitic also had an issue with, there's a video of Rakitic basically not agreeing with something that is it Sarabia or Setien? One of them is saying to him, basically openly questioning him. Now I can't lip read, but it's like I didn't see any of that with Valverde, and I'm seeing a lot of it with Setien and Sarabia, and it's difficult to watch. It really is.
And the players know Setien wasn't the first choice coach.
Exactly.
They went out to Qatar to get Xavi, and a lot of players would have wanted Xavi because he's a friend and a former teammate. And I think from the get-go, they just knew that this wasn't the club's first choice, and they were thinking, here we go again, another disgusting decision from the board. And they were just fed up. So I think when you look at the whole thing, it would have been remarkable for Barcelona to win the league this year. So I think with Madrid now favourites, I think at the end of the season we'll understand why Madrid win the league if they do win the league, because there's more of a collective there. It's a team. Zidane's there. He knows his team. He knows his players. There's huge respect. It's just not as disjointed.
No, they look more like a kind of cohesive whole under Zidane, and they look happy on the park. And there's been the odd hiccup along the way, a couple of unexpected losses, Levante, Betis, and a few other drop points. But by and large, they have looked all right. They've been nothing special compared to previous years, but they do look like they're more united. And they've also got a few key players that are turning up week after week. Kroos, Casemiro, and Benzema, obviously. And we could do a whole podcast of Barcelona, but we should move on. So let's talk about Madrid. They, I would say, now are in pole position to win the league. It was already in their hands, but given the fact that they keep winning and Barca are dropping points, you'd have to say now if they don't win the league, it's going to be a case of them completely throwing it away rather than Barca winning it.
Yeah, they're a point ahead with a game in hand. So if they beat Getafe tomorrow night, that's Thursday, they'll go 4 ahead with the same games played, and they have the better head-to-head. So you could almost say 5 points. But they're in pole position, and they get over the line against Espanyol and Real Sociedad in the last couple of weeks, and they haven't been outstanding, but they're winning those games at a crucial time of the season. So they'll get confidence from that, and they'll know that they're going to be in for an absolute fight tomorrow night against Getafe, who also beat Real Sociedad. They beat them on Monday, and that was a really good win for them. So I think Getafe, everybody knows they're very, very hard to beat. They're in 5th position in the league, so they'll challenge Madrid. Madrid haven't been exceptional, but they've got a really good squad, and they've got the quality of Benzema up top, who produced the goods on Sunday night with that back heel assist, the nutmeg, to play Casemiro in. It was just a gorgeous piece of play, and he's been doing it all season. He's got 17 goals in the league, 22 in all competition, and then he's got double figures for assists as well. So he's really been leading the line, and I think this is his time, his period of where he's really building his Real Madrid legacy, and his legacy as a fantastic footballer. So I think with him there, you can always expect a goal or an assist there, and I think they'll probably beat Getafe, but it won't be easy.
No, it won't be easy at all. And certainly they were going into a game there against an Espanyol team that's their fourth manager now of the season. Gallego, Machine, Abelardo, and now they're on Francisco Rufete is taking over. They would have had possibly a little kick back from just that new manager effect kind of thing, and they didn't make it easy for Madrid at all. And it was just that one moment of brilliance from Benzema, who, as you say, this season's it's been. I think would you say this has been his best season at Madrid?
I think he's had incredible seasons, but I think this season he's been more important than ever.
He's been more of a protagonist, I think, this season than other seasons.
Yeah, he's got that role. And if you look at their top scorers this season, Benzema's top with and this is in the league I'm talking about. Benzema's top with 17, and Sergio Ramos is second with 8. And then it's Casemiro and Cruz with 4. So they haven't had anybody else get into double figures. And you're looking around the team, and most players have actually scored. I think that they have over 20 players in the squad have scored in the league. So there's goals coming from everywhere, but no one's scoring big numbers. And obviously Hazard's been out, and you would have expected Hazard to hit those heights. But he hasn't done that because he's been out through injury, and his early season form just wasn't great. So Benzema, I think this is his best ever season because they need him. If he wasn't in double figures, they wouldn't be top of the league. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Just on that goal, a lot of people are comparing it to the goal that Benzema himself scored when Guti set him up with a back heel. What one's better for you? The one that Guti set up for Benzema against Depor away, or this one?
I personally think that the Benzema one from the weekend is better, just because there's a nutmeg involved, and also because he hasn't a clue where Casemiro is, and he's going away from goal. He's going towards the corner flag, and just the sheer audacity to do it. But I ran a poll on the Get Spanish Football News Twitter feed, and 64% voted for Goodies. Mm-hmm. So I think the overall idea is that Goodies is better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for that you've obviously got to take in the element of nostalgia. I think nostalgia can kind of impart quite a rosy glow over anything that happens in football or whatever. But I still think Goodies is a little bit better, having I watched them back a good few times just over the last few days. And the Guti one, I think, because if Guti dinks it over the goalkeeper, or if he tries to do that, I'd say 9 times out of 10 he would have scored that goal against Depor. He's more or less one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he senses that he knows where Benzema is, and that's real audacity to have the option to shoot and to set up
to be cheeky enough to pull it back.
And it was only 1-0 at that point as well. It wasn't like he was taking the piss. It was like that was the decision he took, and I thought it was really special to do that.
It's quality. But Benzema, I've watched the Benzema one I think about 25 times since. I found this like 4-second clip, and it was played in slow motion, and it's just skill. Yeah,
no, it was great, absolutely great. Wasn't the only golazo of the weekend though, because God Almighty, that goal for Villarreal. Talk us through that.
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just a punt up the field, and Santi Cazorla is standing around the 18-yard line. Mm-hmm. The ball's coming down out of the air. Most people take a touch, maybe take a bad touch. Cazorla takes a touch to lay on Gerard Moreno, who smacks it in first time on the volley into the far corner, and it's just unbelievable. And week in, week out, we're talking about Cazorla. And people are thinking, like maybe some people who don't really watch the Liga that much or just listen to us talk for an hour once a week. He is unbelievable. And people are looking at his Arsenal days and his days in the Premier League as, he must be past it. But he's still as good as ever. He's just lighting up the league every week, and he's been instrumental in Villarreal's push for a Champions League spot. And that goal, if you haven't seen it, go and find it, because it's one of the goals of the season.
It's unbelievable. But it almost defies belief just how... Do you remember that movie for like 2005 or 2004 called Shaolin Soccer? It was like these Chinese guys. And it was obviously like computer generated, and stuff like that would happen. The goalkeeper would kick it, some guy would karate kick it to another guy, and then the other guy would volley it in. It was almost like that. It was a long kick, one touch for the guy, and then the volley itself for Moreno, that would have been like one of the goals of the weekend. Just the volley itself. But the stuff that comes before it, it defies belief that should happen. And it's funny, like the opposition players are just standing about looking at each other like, what the hell was that? Like, how did that happen? How did it get from the goalkeeper to almost impossible to defend?
Even without the Cazorla touch, the strike from Moreno alone is a belter. Like the ball is just rockets into the corner. It doesn't even move. The way you see balls, they're lighter than ever in footballs nowadays, and you see them kind of moving. He just pings it and almost breaks the net. But the touch from Cazorla and the technique from both players is class. And Jared Moreno doesn't get enough credit. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. He's class for Villarreal.
Mm-hmm. They've been decent as well from the restart. I suppose, that would lead us into this battle for European places, because at Villarreal, maybe halfway through the season, you were wondering whether or not they could push for that. I think they've got the quality in the team, but it's been a very interesting one, this fight for European places, because we've seen Real Sociedad have completely collapsed, and they were being tipped as probably the best team of the chasing pack. I think some people had them above even Atletico based on form, and they've completely collapsed. Getafe had a bit of a shaky start and now look like they're possibly coming back into it. Atletico have been magnificent pretty much game to game. Valencia disappointing again, since they've started, and they've sacked Celades as well.
Yeah, it's clearly Atletico and Villarreal who've been the teams really looking for a Champions League spot there. They've been the in-four teams. Sevilla are still in fourth, and they beat Leganés last night 3-0, pretty convincing. Bad news for Leganés. It looks like they're going to be going to Segunda. And Real Sociedad has been the worst of the pack, along with Valencia. And when we did start the podcast again, well, we kept the podcast going, but when we started again and we were given our kind of preview to the so-called new season, I tipped Atletico and Real Sociedad for Champions League, and I don't think Real Sociedad will be getting it because they're after losing 4 games in a row, and it's just all over the shop. They lost against Getafe on Monday night, and Getafe are a very good team, don't get me wrong, but it just hasn't been working for them. They haven't been clicking, and bad news came out yesterday. Sociedad announced that Martin Odegaard, on loan from Real Madrid, has tendinitis, and he was getting examined in Barcelona yesterday, so he could be ruled out for the rest of the season, and he's been arguably their star player. So it's not looking good for them at all. Villarreal, really, really strong. They're flying. So I think it's probably between those 4, Atletico down to Villarreal, and then Real Sociedad and Valencia. You just would imagine that they have too much work to do with just 6 games to go. And Celades was sacked. Kind of saw that coming. There was a couple of incidents where we saw off the field issues, dressing room issues, how he was handling press conferences as well wasn't really great. That the Akabi moment comes to mind when he saw him in the press after the game against Levante. So it hasn't been going well there. Valencia, on the other hand, have made 10 managerial changes in the last 6 seasons. So there's clearly a board problem there as well. There's a management issue up above, a little bit like Barcelona as well. So they've got Voro in, who seems to come in and be the caretaker manager every time somebody gets sacked. Borja Gonzalez, he used to play for Valencia, and I think he's a coach at the club, but he's come out many a time and said, I don't want the role, I don't want to be the manager. So every time there's probably a wobbly few games, he's thinking, oh, here we go again. I'm going to be called back. I saw you
on Twitter, was it yesterday or the day before, saying, well, just give him the job, like.
I know, he clearly doesn't want the job. He's happy to be a coach there, but knows probably how demanding the fans are, and he's happy to help them out for 6 or 7 games until they get somebody. Now that somebody could be Ernesto Valverde, because on the Fero were reporting the other day that he's been spotted in Valencia house hunting with his assistant coach. And I think that would make sense because Valverde's been out of work since Barcelona let him go. He's a very, very good coach, done very good things at Athletic Club, and he knows how to manage that sort of, Athletic Club and Valencia will be similar sized clubs. They're not Barca or Madrid, but they're the next one down. And I think he'd be a great appointment. But there needs some stability. Like Marcelino was a fantastic coach. He's able to get them into the Champions League places, and he clearly didn't get on with the board. So there's been a lot of issues.
Yeah, lots. I mean, yeah, there are some clubs you wonder if they're actually manageable, because I think Real Madrid and Barcelona have sort of always been like that, at least since I've been a watcher of Spanish football. The demands that are placed on the coaches are they're just almost unreasonable. You can't have any kind of bad run and expect to survive. I think Valencia are a little bit with that to a lesser degree, because they have had success within living memory with Benitez and stuff like that. I think the fans do have a certain expectation that they should be constantly perhaps where Atlético are or where Sevilla are. And when they constantly fall below that, which they have done in recent years, I think there is a high level of demand placed on managers. And I think that's probably why you see such a high turnover.
Yeah, Valencia's it's a huge club. And they're like arguably top 4, top 5 club in Spain. Like they won the league under Benitez twice. In 2002, 2004. They've had pretty good runs in Europe as well, and they recently won the Copa del Rey. So they're a very big club with a huge fan base, very, very demanding as well. And it's a pity how it's going there at the moment. Now they're still 8th, but it looks like there's just too much work to do to get into the European place.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of sackings, we mentioned it briefly earlier. Espanyol also sacked their coach, 4th coach of the season. We spoke about this briefly on the streaming. Were you surprised by this? I was a little bit, I have to say.
I was as well, yeah. Like, even though they're rock bottom, people might ask, why would you be surprised someone's getting sacked if he's got his team bottom of the table and they're going to get relegated? But I was, because Abelardo was their 3rd appointment of the season, and I thought that he was going to get something going, because they had a win against Alaves, 2-0 win on the first game back, and they've got some good players there. I've been harping on about their good players, but they're clearly not producing, and they've only got 24 points and they're 10 from safety. Celta Vigo in 17th have 34, so they need to make up 10 points with 6 games, and it just looks like way too much. So I really fear for them, and they haven't been relegated in 26 years, so they might be going. Rafet is there. He was sporting director, and he's come in for the rest of the season, so that they haven't said if they're going to give him the job full time, or it's a bit like Real Betis, but Ruby getting sacked. They've done the same there. Trujillo's come in, and he's going to be running it on until the end of the season, basically. So I don't know. It looks like Espanyol are in big trouble. Yeah,
I think the people in charge of Espanyol just love sacking people, because they sacked the women's coach as well the other day, 2 days ago. They sacked the women's coach as well. So I mean, it's they're obviously trigger happy there. But I mean, fourth manager of the season. It's like you're something's clearly going really badly wrong at the club there. Mallorca absolutely hammered Celta yesterday, which I thought that was a really surprising result. There's still a big gap. There's a gap of 5 points between 18th and 17th, but Mallorca's a team that, I think we've been saying this for a while, they don't really have bad games. They don't really play terribly, but they're just not winners, I don't think. They don't have that winning instinct. They certainly, if they maybe are like slightly subpar, they never really grind out results in that way. But they've got not too many bad players. And last night, honestly, they were brilliant.
This was a really bizarre result, because Celta were after drawing 2-2 with Barcelona, beaten Real Sociedad away 1-0, and beaten Alaves 6-0. So they picked up very, very valuable points, which has almost secured their place in the top flight. So very, very surprising. I think Mallorca had nothing to lose, because if they lost, well, they had a lot to lose. But I mean, going into that game, if they'd lost that, it's now a 5-point gap. But if they'd lost that, they would have stayed on 26, and it would have been an 11-point gap then. So it was a huge, huge game. And I thought that Celta would go there with massive confidence, and maybe they did, having picked up 3 great results on the run. And Mallorca were kind of doomed, and there was too much at stake for Mallorca that they would have just frozen, but clearly not the case. And Iago Aspas came out after the game and he said, that's Celta Vigo's captain, and he said, Mallorca haven't scored many goals this season, but today they were like Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
and they were just on fire. And yeah, like it keeps them in with a fighting chance. I think Espanyol and Leganés are doomed, but Mallorca, they're 18th and 29, 5 from safety, as you say, and there's still enough. Obviously, mathematically, they're still very, very capable of doing it. And if Celtic go on a bad run now, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But it was. I think they would have felt confident going into the game, but I don't think they underestimated the challenge. And it's interesting that how well it just shows you how well they played against Barca, because they actually rested quite a few of their key players. Nolito, Rafinha, Murillo, and Mina. None of them started the game against Barca because they were resting them for this one. So they definitely had it marked down as a key match, and they brought them in, and just it was a complete disaster for them. But Mallorca were good, and Kobo, I just think he's been one of the sort of bright sparks of the season. I think he's got a really good future ahead of him. I think he's just been great. Yeah,
he's very good, and I think there'll be a lot of clubs in for him, especially if Mallorca get relegated. There's going to be a lot of demand for his signature for next season for another loan deal, because I think he's at that age. He's 20. He's 19. Still too young for the move. Like, he wouldn't get into the Real Madrid team yet, although he's quality. I think he needs that, another year to develop and play first team football like he's doing. And he just has this kind of freestyle. He just goes for it. They give him a role on the wing, but he's up and down, and he's very, very, very good. And I think he's got a massive future. Another one Barcelona let go and Real Madrid snapped up, and that's obviously marketing and business and commercial issues. There's going to be a lot of support coming from Japan for those teams. And there was I was reading about Mallorca. They've seen huge hits for their YouTube and their website, and so it's really building their profile in Japan as well, because they've got Kubo on loan.
Yeah, it's the same with Espanyol and Woolley, isn't it? Like they've had a pretty decent income from just that, from just having Woolley in the squad. Yeah. It's interesting how that it's interesting how that can change kickoff times. Yeah, exactly. It can change kickoff times because they want to make it for the Chinese audience. I don't really know how I feel about that, but it's just interesting to see how that can happen in football. Yeah. Right. Now we've already spoken about a lot, and we could probably go on all day. But we kind of have to talk about the Arthur deal. We're trying to avoid talking about transfers too much these days, but the Arthur deal is done. Could you talk a little bit about that, because the numbers are confusing for some people in terms of the price that's been paid?
Yeah. So Arthur is going from Arthur is going from Barcelona to Juventus for 72 million. Plus 10 million in add-ons, which brings it up to 82 million. And Pjanic is coming from Juventus to Barcelona for 60 million plus 5 million in variables. So that's 65 million. So basically what they're doing is it's a swap deal, but Arthur is 7 years younger than Pjanic, so he's been valued at more, and the clubs have made these valuations between themselves. So what it looks like now is, for the books of Barcelona, which are very, very important because the club isn't in a great place financially, they're able to say to their accountants, okay, look, we've got 82 million coming in. And that's not all going to come in now, because clubs generally they'll pay, if it's a 5-year contract, they might pay 15 million or 20 million in the first year, and they'll pay it off over 4 years. So that's what they're doing. They're basically using it as an economic incoming that will potentially balance their books, or make it look like they've got money
doing something.
And they're doing something. So that's how they'll play it out. It's a strange deal. Like, Arthur only joined in 2018 and didn't really get a proper go with it either. So a lot of our Barcelona fans are frustrated. But in saying that, Pjanic is coming in. He's 30. He signs on a 4-year deal, and he could come in and be really, really good, because he is a quality player. He's shown that in Serie A for years. So yeah, strange deal, but I think it's one for the books for Barcelona.
Yeah, and I think that's all they're thinking about, because Christ knows it. I don't think they're thinking about the football aspect of it. Pjanic is a great player, but he's 30 years old. When you think back to, do you remember the 5-1 Clásico win at the Camp Nou?
Yeah.
For Barca. Just remember watching him in that game and thinking, this guy is going to be the next big central midfielder. He's got the Barca style. He seems to understand the play. And it was all looking up for them at that point. And then I don't really know what's gone wrong with them.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that deal comes about, because Arthur is a quality player and he'll no doubt he'll be good in Serie A, but it'll be interesting to see because Pjanic is coming into a team which already has a lot of 30-year-old midfielders, 30 plus, so we'll see how he fits in. He might just take over with Rakitic, as Rakitic is expected to leave as well this season. And then there was another deal yesterday with Achraf Hakimi going from Real Madrid to Inter. That was €40 million plus 5 million in add-ons, and he signed on for a 5-year deal. He's only 21 and looks a very, very good player. He was brilliant for Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga for the last 2 years, and he looks like something special. I think a lot of Real Madrid fans, again, similar to the Barca fans, but Arthur, Real Madrid fans will be kind of wondering what's going
scratching
wrong
their heads
here.
a bit.
Yeah, but Zidane's a big fan of Danny Carvajal, and he's been there for years, and he's Mr. Consistent, and he just told the club, I want to play, and they said, well, Carvajal's the first choice, so it's up to you. And then Antonio Conte was key in this one because he basically plays with 3 centre defenders and then wing backs, bombing wing backs, and Hakimi's more of a wing back than an actual right back. He gets up and down. He's like your modern day wing back, and people are questioning his defensive capabilities, and he mightn't be the strongest going back. So he'll suit that system with Conte, and he's only 21, so he's got a big future ahead. I think it was a pretty good deal, €40 million. The fact that he's young and he's a big prospect in the game. So that went through yesterday as well.
Yeah, the most extensive piece I've seen in that is, believe it or not, from Hello Magazine Spain. Hello Magazine Spain is obviously different from Hello Magazine in the UK. But yeah, they've got really not bad sports journalism in Hello Magazine. But yeah, complete divergence there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But it's just, it's like a lot of these guys. How do you create space for them? When the standard's so high. So yeah. One final thing, we didn't actually talk about this, but it's a big issue, so we're trying to spend too long on it. But is VAR ruining football, Kieran? Sid Lowe came out yesterday on ESPN saying that he would do away with VAR. I don't think just on the basis of last night and the penalty decisions and stuff, but just he reckons it's taken there are more disadvantages than advantages. If you want to talk about it in the context of last night, you can, but yeah, just general reaction to that comment.
I think we've gone too far now to remove it. Yeah. Because football's only going in one direction, and that's with technology and with the use of technology and with the help of it. So I think we're in it now, and we just have to embrace it and try to make it work, even though there are examples of it not working. Like Alaves got a penalty given against them on Saturday night against Real Madrid or Atlético Madrid, and it was never a penalty. It was on Marcos Llorente, and it was really unfortunate. And that sort of decision could lead to Alaves getting relegated. So but then there are decisions throughout every season that referees have made that have affected clubs. So I think with VAR, we've got more eyes. It's pausing the game. Okay, I think we can get used to that. I think it'll be implemented in a way that will be more efficient and it'll be quicker, and we'll eventually get there. But I think we're in the very early phases of the introduction of technology to football. And Sid Lowe's a top journalist and a football romantic, and he's been around a lot longer than we have watching football.
Exactly.
So I think he's probably thinking, those days with just a referee making one decision, that were beautiful. But they weren't, because every week we had, that wasn't a red card, this ref's a disgrace. Either way, fans are passionate and their clubs are losing or their clubs are getting relegated and they want to blame somebody. So now we're able to blame the ref and we're able to blame VAR. But I think we'll get to a stage where it'll be that good that we'll have clearer decisions, quicker decisions, and we just have to go with it. That would be my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I was just on something you said that was interesting. One of the big criticisms of VAR before it was implemented was that it was going to take the debate out of football, which is kind of an absurd criticism, because surely you should want clarity and consistency. But one of the things was, no, we like the debate in football. That was the thing I heard. It's actually not. It's created kind of more debate, possibly not for the right reasons. But, I think one thing is that I think there are penalties being given now. Let's just take last night's thing. I think there were penalties given now for both teams that you maybe wouldn't have seen being given without VAR. I don't know if you think that's a fair enough decision. If you just think, or statement, sorry, the Atletico penalty that's retaken, Stegen is marginally off his line, really marginally off his line. But if you compare it to Jerzy Dudek in the 2005 Champions League final, it's nothing. But he is slightly off the line, and by the rules, that's a retake. Now, people might not be happy with that, but at least it's consistent. He's off his line. In both penalties, they do look soft, but there is minimal contact, and it's inside the box both times.
Yeah.
Even in the second one, by the way, even in the second Atletico penalty, there is just a minimal contact on Carrasco that makes him clip his own legs. It looks stupid if you see it in real time, but if you slow it down, there's a touch there. That's why he clips his own legs. That's why he goes down. Technically, that's a penalty. You've got to look at it. So there are penalties being given that might look soft, but they, by the book, are penalties. So I'm in favour of it. I think I would be in favour of it because it's given a bit of consistency. Now, one thing I do have is that the refs don't always seem to use it, which is something I can't understand. If the technology is there, the referees have to use it. Sometimes they don't. They don't consult the VAR when they should. And that's happened a few times with... it happened a couple of times with Madrid in the last few weeks. And that's where I think a lot of the fans' grief comes from. It's not necessarily against the VAR itself, but against how the referees use the VAR. But I think that will smooth out. I think it will get better, and we just need to persist with it. That's my 2 cents.
I think you're right, because some referees without VAR would see the penalty, for example, last night for Barcelona, where Semedo goes in and Felipe clips him, doesn't get the ball, and it's a penalty. And some refs would have said, without the use of VAR, they would have said, okay, that's very soft. I'm not giving it. And then others would say, okay, the rules are that's a penalty, even though he's gone down really, really easily. So I think it will give that bit more consistency, and we're going to be able to use the rules and just take out the kind of bias from one referee to the next. So hopefully it gets better, because it is still a bit of a mess, and you're wondering why are they giving those penalties? Why is technology able to call that a penalty when it's clearly not? You would wonder, and there's human error involved, but sometimes you're thinking, okay, there's a little bit more sense in the human's decision over that. I don't know. But yeah, I think combining the human aspect with the technology, eventually we might get to a better place than where we are now.
Yep, I think I would agree with you there. Okay, well, I think that's probably about enough for today. We'll be back for streaming on Saturday, probably at the same time, sort of late afternoon. We'll confirm that on our Instagram, on the Talk Football Instagram. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again in a couple of days. Adios.
Hasta luego.